If you go into this right here, which is detail, it's got sharpening and noise reduction, you will notice that by default, we have a 25% amount sharpening. 25%, it just feels that's a good place to start. If you never go here, you're going to get that amount of sharpening. So let's talk about what we have. Amount, radius, detail, and masking. Now, amount is the amount, how aggressive it is. Radius is how much it uses once it finds an edge to sharpen. Detail is how it manages to bring detail back into those areas. If you use too much of that, it can look grainy. And masking can mask areas out that don't need sharpening. It's kind of artificial intelligence, but it works pretty good. Now let's say we're going to sharpen this bad boy up all the way. And so we come to amount and we go all the way this way. Now if I come up here and turn the preview off and on, now look up, say for example, in this area right here. You could say, well, hey, it's sharpening. That's pretty cool. I like that. Well, we're not looking at it at 100%, and that's a big problem. If we go to 100%, the way it will print, look at that. That's too much. That's way too much. But we're going to leave it there for a second. I like what it's doing to the flag, but I don't like what it's doing anywhere else. But you're not going to know that unless you bring it up to 100%. So one of the things I would really recommend, even though we're only looking at a portion, is you bring that bad boy up to 100% by double-clicking on the zoom tool and looking at the sharpening from here. Now, radius, again, is how much once it finds an edge. Now, let's talk about the edge. There are no edges up here. It's a flat surface. Run your hand across your screen. Now, when I say that to my students at university, they think I'm crazy, but it's true, isn't it? It's not a three-dimensional object. It's flat. Edges are found by contrast shifts. So when it finds the contrast shifts with a mount, it begins to increase and decrease the contrast on those edges, and we see something that's sharper. But then radius comes in and says, I can use more on either side. And if I come in, watch like in these areas in here. They get more aggressive. And if we go to detail, watch the areas again in here. It tries to add more detail. So even now, if I take this down to here and turn this on and off, you still might think, that looks pretty good. But it won't when it prints. That's why you want to be at 100%. Now, the last one is called masking. And what masking does is it masks areas that it doesn't think should have ever had any sharpening applied to them. So if we go into masking and bring it up, you'll notice, especially like in areas like here, nondescript areas, it begins reducing the amount of sharpening. In other areas, it leaves it alone. Now, let's get a little bit more realistic here. Let's take amount down to about 50 or so, like that. And I'm going to take radius down to about a 1.5 or 2. That's kind of about where I like to be, somewhere around there. And we can turn preview on and off. Understand, if you really have a really bad blurred image, chances are you're not going to be able to fix it. Sharpening is not really designed to take an out-of-focus image and bring it into focus. It's designed to help the image look a little bit better when it prints. Now, masking, well, let's get detail down too. We don't need that much by any means. Somewhere around there. And then if we bring in a little masking to maybe soften up some of these areas, and again, I like what it's doing to the ripples on that flag. And the other areas, it's just very subtle. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. But there's one more trick here. If I want to see what's happening as I'm doing it in more detail, come up to Amount again and hold down the Alt key. That's the Option key on a Mac, Alt in Windows. And watch what happens when I begin moving. It goes into shades of gray. Now, why is it doing that? Well, the human eye can best perceive sharpening if it's in grayscale. So when you hold the Alt Option key down, it will turn into shades of gray temporarily. Easier for you to see what is in focus and what isn't. Next one down for radius, watch this. Hold the Alt in Windows, Option key on Mac. Those areas that you see in light and dark are the areas it's impacting. So it's an easy way to really get an idea of what it is doing. Same with detail. And the mask is pretty cool. Hold down the Alt, Option key in Mac, Alt in Windows. The black areas are not going to get any sharpening. Why? There's nothing in there to sharpen. They're faces of bricks. They're open windows. Total control over the sharpening. Don't forget, without even asking, you get 25%. Let's say we like this. Let's go ahead and click Done. Now that'll close, bring us back to the organizer, but save our changes.